Verse 6. God stood and measured the earth. He looked. Don't miss that, brothers and sisters. God looked. We saw that back in chapter 1. Habakkuk said, God, are you a good judge? Are you looking? Are you seeing what the world is doing? Are you seeing what the wicked are getting away with? And God is saying, Habakkuk, I'm looking. And I'm standing up. Now, God doesn't literally stand up. He's not a human. Think of the imagery. God's not slacking off. He's not sitting down. He is standing up. He's getting an accurate assessment of everything that is going on so that he might judge rightly. And God knows everything. And when God looks at evil, look what it says. He shook the nations. God shook the nations. Yes, specifically God shook Egypt. He shook the Canaanites back in Israel's history. But Habakkuk doesn't refer to the Egyptians. He doesn't refer to the Canaanites, just the nations. Gentile people groups who reject God. Because if God is in the business of shaking those who do not know Him, He can also shake the Babylonians just as He shook the Egyptians and the Canaanites. Doesn't really matter what nation it is. The important thing is that God judges the nations, and the nations are not stronger than God. Brothers and sisters, you may be here this morning. Maybe you're worried about financial reasons, financial things, and you have forgotten about the God who can miraculously fill the widow's jar with oil. Maybe you're here this morning and you're worried about being surrounded on all sides, but you forget that you worship the God who shuts the mouths of lions. Maybe you're here this morning and you're worried about the storms of your life, and God, I feel like I'm sinking, I feel like I'm drowning, and you forget about the God who says, peace be still, and even the wind and the waves listen to His voice. Trust me, the idea of Babylon overwhelmed Habakkuk. It's a terrifying image. But the things in our life that seem so great and so powerful and so mighty that make us quake and tremble, all of those things will quake and tremble and bow before the power of our God. Look at the rest of verse 6. Then the eternal mountains were scattered. The everlasting hills, they sank low. Why? Because His were the everlasting ways. I mean, look at the imagery. It's these mountains these mountains look like they've been there forever. They're so proud and so majestic. And these giant hills of the land, they look so good that they've been here since all of time. But the reality is there's only one person who is truly immovable. There's only one who's actually eternal, one who is from everlasting to everlasting. And the so-called eternal mountains that you find in your life, the so-called everlasting hills that seem so great and so mighty, God says they will be scattered. They will sink low. The men of this earth, the kingdoms of this earth, all the things we worry about with the culture, all of that will be scattered. There is not a country, government, business, organization that will not sink low when God appears. So I ask you, dear Christian, why do you tremble? Why do you tremble for men when God is for you?